2, 1. Oh my goodness. Good morning, good afternoon. Whatever it is for you, I hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Zach Schaumler. This is Strong Opinion Sports. Today is Friday, September 14th. Oh, get it all out. Oh my goodness. I'm so happy we made it to Friday. I'm so done with this week. You don't understand. I don't think people realize I work 4 jobs. I also take 18 credits. I'm in college, and I do 3 shows a week. We have a shorter show today. I had a lot of stuff to work on this week. I apologize. This show is short but high quality. I'm really excited. We'll talk about the Bengals and Ravens game in just a minute, but first I want to start with this. So Dak Prescott is like a McDonald's commercial. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to come back to that. My dad has been a food writer in Portland for many, many years. I've gone on many adventures with my dad all through Portland, seeing a lot of food. I've seen a lot of good food, a lot of bad food, as going with my dad on adventures as a food writer. The number one thing I noticed in all my years following my dad is that often pictures of hamburgers are fake. The food looks amazing. The hamburger looks incredible in the picture. And then when you actually order the hamburger and hold it in your hands, it looks nothing like the picture, and it was totally false advertising. It looked great, but it did not deliver when you actually looked closely and looked at the substance of the burger. And that's what McDonald's advertisements do all the time. I don't mean to associate my dad with McDonald's, but McDonald's commercials, the food always looks amazing. Ooh, that burger, oh, the Big Mac. And you hold a Big Mac and you're like, it's pretty disappointing. It's deflating. That is what Dak Prescott is. Dak Prescott is a disappointing McDonald's commercial. Because to this point, I've liked Dak Prescott. He's big. He's a grown-up. He's got those broad shoulders. He always says the right thing at the right time. He's an adult. I like his maturity. Dak Prescott looks the part. But if you dive deep into Dak Prescott, if you really look close at Dak Prescott, he's not what's advertised. He's not good enough. Again, he's like that McDonald's commercial that looks great, and you look close and you're like, oh, that burger is not what I thought it was. So I watched a lot of the Panthers and Cowboys game. In fact, I looked at every Dak Prescott play between the Panthers and the Cowboys Wednesday night. I'm laying in bed taking notes. And this is ugly. It's a hard game to watch. I'm watching the Cowboys on 3rd and long. They don't trust Dak Prescott. They're running screenplays. They're just not giving him opportunities because they don't believe in him. It's sad. But even worse is Dak Prescott's not doing enough at the line of scrimmage. He's not changing the play to help the offense. He's not checking out of bad plays. He's not checking into better plays. Dak Prescott at the line of scrimmage doesn't have enough mentally. And it really scares me. It's concerning because Joe Burrow, Louisiana State, LSU's quarterback, he's doing that. He's in college. Yeah, a couple weeks ago, Joe Burrow played in Cowboy Stadium. He did a better job checking plays at the line of scrimmage than Dak Prescott will this week against the Giants. That's concerning to me. And, what's Tom Brady known for? Tom Brady, the best quarterback of all time, he's known for checking the Patriots into the right play over and over and over again. And to play quarterback at a high level in the NFL, you must have an ability to master the offense at the line of scrimmage. You have to change the play to the right thing at the line of scrimmage. You have to master your offense. Dak Prescott either is not being allowed to change plays. That's concerning if the Cowboys don't trust Dak Prescott enough to have control of the offense and change the play at the line of scrimmage. That's one concern. But even worse would be, what if the Cowboys do trust Dak Prescott? They're giving him that ability, and Dak Prescott simply can't recognize a defense well enough to change the play at the line of scrimmage. Either way, it's not good. And Dak Prescott's highly, highly limited. I don't know. It's concerning. The Cowboys' offense is bad, right? Their offensive line misses too many blocks. They have bad receivers. They drop a lot of balls. They have bad play calling. It's all bad. But Dak Prescott's bad too. Dak Prescott, I don't know. Here's my test of what makes a good quarterback. I always say this. I'm going to start saying this from now on forever. The way to know if your quarterback is a good quarterback is if a lot of other teams would take your quarterback. If your car is really nice, a lot of other people would rather have your car than their car. And if your quarterback's really good, a lot of other people would rather have your quarterback than their quarterback. There's not a lot of teams in the NFL that would trade their quarterback for Dak Prescott. I don't even think the mid-tier, like the Bengals wouldn't. I don't think the Jaguars even would. There's not a long list. In fact, there's a very short list. Maybe the Buccaneers would take Dak Prescott, but I don't even know if that's true. So the Cowboys are in trouble. Dak Prescott's not a great quarterback. Here's how you stop Dak Prescott. This is even more concerning. You know what? The way you stop Dak Prescott is you put a lot of guys in the box. You stack the box. You put 8 defenders in the box, 8, 6, 7, whatever the number is, and you force the Cowboys to throw the football. If you play a run defense, you put a lot of defenders in the box to stop the run, to stop Ezekiel Elliott, and make Dak Prescott beat you, he can't. That's what the Panthers did last week. I watched the Panthers stack the box consistently, and Dak Prescott could not beat the Panthers throwing the football. The Giants safety Landon Collins came out this week and said, that's how you stop Dak Prescott. He was very honest. He said, look, if you want to beat Dak Prescott, you make Dak Prescott throw the football. Sad, but I agree with him. Concerning, I don't like that. I wish Dak Prescott was better. But the truth is, that is correct. That is how you beat Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott responded to that. He said, okay, challenge accepted. And sadly, I don't know that Dak Prescott's good enough to fulfill that challenge. I don't think that Dak Prescott is a good enough quarterback to beat you throwing the football. Would you trust Blake Bortles to throw the ball 55 times a game? No. And I don't trust Dak Prescott to do that either. Dak Prescott's highly limited. We'll see. We're going to learn this weekend. We're going to watch the Giants and the Cowboys. The Giants' game plan is to load the box to stop the run and to see if Dak Prescott can beat them. I do not believe Dak Prescott can beat the Giants. We'll find out. But I do not believe it's going to happen. All right, we have a great show today. I'm really, really excited. The things I want to start with today, I want to talk about the 2 most fascinating football games of the weekend. Between college and NFL, there's 2 games I think are a head above the rest, really interesting. I'm going to talk about the Bengals and the Ravens, my takeaways from that game. Have the Bengals arrived? Are the Bengals a legitimate football team? I'll discuss that, share my opinions. We're going to talk about Joe Flacco. I'm going to talk about the Bengals wide receiver, John Ross. And at the end of the show, I'm going to pick all the games from the weekend. Not all the games. I've curated 9 games from the NFL week and 2 games from college football. I'm going to pick them, tell you what I think, why they're worth watching, and who I think is going to win. I think we should jump into, though, first before we get into that, let me tell you first, you can subscribe to Strong Opinion Sports on iTunes, on SoundCloud, and on YouTube. You can find the full entire hour-long podcast on YouTube, as well as my best, most interesting clips. If you like Strong Opinion Sports as much as I do, help me grow this show by telling your friends about it on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever it is. Help me grow the show by telling your friends. And please help me grow this podcast. We're growing a lot. I'm really excited. But continue to share the show on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever it is. Help me grow by telling your friends about this show. I love that, by the way. You know how you know if your girlfriend's really hot? If all your friends think your girlfriend's really hot. And that's what I feel like, that's what I believe with quarterbacks. If your quarterback's really good, every other team in the NFL would rather have your quarterback than their quarterback. Tell me the Bears would rather have Mitch Trubisky than Aaron Rodgers? No, Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback. But Dak Prescott's not a great quarterback because not a lot of other NFL teams would rather have Dak Prescott than their quarterback. I've never thought about it that way before, but that's my real belief is if your quarterback's great, other teams will want him. Okay, I want to talk about the 2 most fascinating football games from the weekend. Have you ever heard of a snake charmer? It's kind of like that, where a snake charmer plays a flute and the snake just gets totally charmed. They can't take their eyes away from the snake charmer. That's how I feel about these 2 football games. These 2 games are not necessarily the best games of the weekend, not necessarily the most competitive, but these are 2 games this weekend I just cannot take my eyes off. I'm fascinated with. I need to watch. The first game of the weekend is Sunday. The Packers play the Vikings. It is in Green Bay. This is a must-win game for the Minnesota Vikings. Remember, the Packers are vulnerable. Aaron Rodgers got hurt. He didn't practice this week. He's on one leg. He's kind of hobbling around. And the Vikings paid Kirk Cousins a ton of money this offseason. They gave Kirk Cousins a 3-year, $84 million contract, fully guaranteed. The reason why the Vikings brought in Kirk Cousins was because they believed he could win these games, these really tough matchups, the Vikings, the Packers, playoff games, things like that. They said, if we give you this incredible roster, you had better be able to win these games. This is a must-win, not just for the Vikings, but for Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins' reputation will be hurt if he does not win on Sunday against the Packers. Remember, they had Case Keenum. If they wanted average quarterback play, if they wanted to lose games like this to the Packers, where they have the far superior roster but can't win because their quarterback isn't good enough, They would have kept Case Keenum if that's what they wanted. No, the Vikings went after Kirk Cousins because they wanted a higher level of quarterback play. They had better see that from Kirk Cousins on Sunday against the Packers. This is a must-win game for the Minnesota Vikings. And, I'm curious, what kind of game do the Packers play? Aaron Rodgers is a wild card. I don't know if he's going to come out with two legs, really looking well. Is he going to be limping around, hobbling around? I have no idea what to expect. I am sure his body will be pumped full of painkillers. But other than that, I have no idea. Remember, again, these are not the most intense games. They're not the best games. These are not the games that are the closest at the end. This game might not be a fourth quarter game that's 35-34. I hope so. But the Vikings should blow out the Packers. The question is, do they? How dominant are the Minnesota Vikings? We will find out. The second most fascinating game of this weekend in football, and all of football, not just college, not just NFL, is number 12 LSU is going to play at number 7 Auburn. These are two really good SEC teams. And the matchup for this game, the reason why this game is I'm not a big college football guy. I always really prefer the NFL. The reason why I'm so excited to watch LSU Auburn is because of their quarterbacks. This is a matchup between Jarrett Stidham, the quarterback from Auburn, who's projected to be a top quarterback in next year's NFL draft. He's a junior, though. He could come back. And then LSU has a quarterback named Joe Burrow. He's a graduate transfer. He's also got 2 more years of eligibility. He looks like a potential NFL quarterback. It is very well possible LSU finally has a really good quarterback that could play in the NFL. I don't know if that's true, but we will find out. And we're going to learn a lot. Today's Friday. We're going to learn a lot tomorrow on Saturday about Jarrett Stidham and about Joe Burrow. Kind of a classic SEC matchup. Both teams have great defenses. They're going to run the ball really well. But at the end of the day, who's better? Who is better? Is it Joe Burrow or is it Jarrett Stidham? I think Jarrett Stidham is better. He's a better quarterback. But the question is, does LSU trust their quarterback, Joe Burrow? They've played weirdly conservative in the first 2 weeks. I understood playing conservative when you have a big lead against Miami like they did 2 weeks ago. The one I couldn't quite understand was, why did they play so safe last week against Southeastern Louisiana? I was like, you're playing a really bad school. You should really take some chances. And they did. I don't know if they were playing it safe, if they were trying to not run up the score. I don't know what the deal was with LSU last week. But it looked like LSU didn't really trust their quarterback fully. So I'm very curious to see what happens and kind of what develops this week for LSU. Now, all in all, I'm picking Auburn to win. I think Auburn they have a more experienced quarterback, and I think Auburn's a little bit ahead of LSU. But regardless, it's going to be a great game. I will not be able to stop watching. It's going to go down to the wire, I believe. And the question is, how good is LSU's quarterback, Joe Burrow? So those are my 2 most fascinating games of the weekend, LSU Auburn and the Packers Vikings. I cannot wait to watch either one of those games. Let's talk about the game last night. So Thursday night football last night, the Bengals beat the Ravens 34-23. Let's drink some water. The Bengals are now 2-0. They're first in the AFC North. And the question is, because the Bengals dominated, for most of that game last night, the Bengals dominated the Ravens. The question is, have the Bengals arrived? No, they have not. Here's the thing. At halftime, I put in my notes, man, if Andy Dalton plays like this all year, the Bengals are a playoff team. If Andy Dalton can keep up this level of play, the Bengals are a playoff team. So at halftime, that's how I felt. At halftime, in the first half, Andy Dalton had 4 touchdowns, a couple long drives, a 72-yard drive with 12 plays, another 12-play drive for 78 yards. Andy Dalton had great play action. He looked really fantastic. 4 touchdowns. Andy Dalton was dominant in the first half of the game last night against the Ravens. But you knew this was coming. Then in the second half, the problem was Andy Dalton did not remain consistent. Here's the line for the second half. 3 and out, the Bengals punted. They punted again after a 5-play drive that went only 11 yards. They punted a third time after a 5-play drive that went 20 yards. They punted again after another 5-play drive, only 25 yards. And then the Bengals finally had a good drive near the end of the game, a 10-play drive, 65 yards, got a field goal out of it. And then they got the ball in great field goal position. They can't even talk. Joe Flacco fumbled. Bengals got the ball in great field position, went 3 and out, kicked another field goal. All in all, the Bengals struggled in the second half last night on offense. And it was I don't know. I mean, look, Andy Dalton was solid. He wasn't bad. Had 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. But in the second half, we saw Andy Dalton's true colors against the Ravens. At the end of the game, the final stat line for Andy Dalton was he was 24 for 42, which is only 57% of his completions. It's not great, less than 60%. And the Bengals were not able to move the ball at a high level in the second half. Why? Why did that happen? Why did Andy Dalton's play suddenly decline? Well, the Ravens made adjustments at halftime. The Ravens stopped the Bengals' running game in the second half. The Bengals were not able to run the ball at as high of a level in the second half as they were in the first half. First half, 2nd and 3, they'd carve out like 8, 9, 10, 11 yards. They had consistently 10-yard runs, the Bengals did in the first half. In the second half, Andy Dalton was ineffective because the Bengals could not run the ball. They had a bunch of drops, but even more so, they couldn't do play action. Play action was often what I think he threw 2 touchdowns, a bunch of big gains off play action in the first half. Without that, Andy Dalton was ineffective. So Andy Dalton's solid. He's fine. But Andy Dalton is only as good as the players around him. He's only good if he has a good running game. Only good if his guys aren't having a lot of drops. I mean, that's obvious. He's a quarterback. But we learned last night, Andy Dalton needs a good running game in order to be effective. He needs to be able to use play action. Without play action, Andy Dalton is not effective. That is the takeaway from last night against the Ravens. I mean, look, the Bengals were 5 for 13 on third down conversions. That is simply not acceptable. It's not enough. You got to be better than 5 for 13 on third down. And the reason is because in the second half, the Bengals were unable to run the ball. Now, how about Joe Flacco? What about Joe Flacco? Joe Flacco, on Thursday Night Football against the Bengals, Joe Flacco was hard to watch. And it's not all his fault, but it largely was. So Joe Flacco was 32 for 55, had 376 yards passing, a lot, pretty good actually. Had 2 touchdowns, but the problem was he had 3 turnovers, 2 interceptions, 1 fumble. And my takeaway is this: the Ravens don't believe in Joe Flacco. The Ravens do not believe in their starting quarterback, Joe Flacco. We saw that already when they drafted Lamar Jackson. But I felt bad for Joe Flacco at times. There were times where the Ravens would put Lamar Jackson in the game at quarterback. They'd send Joe Flacco out wide at wide receiver, and it's just demoralizing. For a guy, I played quarterback in college for a year, and that happened to me actually. I was a pocket passer, a pocket quarterback, and they would move me out at wide receiver sometimes, and it was like, it hurts your pride. It's a gut check. You're like, oh, this is not what I want to do. I'm a quarterback. Why am I playing wide receiver for this play? It's weird. And I watched Joe Flacco last night look disengaged during those plays, and I felt bad for Joe Flacco. Now, Joe Flacco, the Ravens don't believe in Joe Flacco, but a lot of that is because Joe Flacco simply does not give the Ravens a reason to believe in him. He doesn't look the part, right? He's got this messy beard, a lot of hair. He doesn't look very clean, very well kept. But even more than that, he made way too many bad throws. Joe Flacco does not look accurate enough to play at a high level in the NFL. It's not encouraging. And there were some throws Joe Flacco made that weren't even close. I'm like, man, what are you doing? There were times where I was just like, who are you throwing to? What? There was an interception late where, his tight end got destroyed. Joe Flacco had a guy in his face, but he threw the ball right in the middle of the field. And I'm like, what are you doing? Who are you throwing to, man? I have no idea. There was a 4th and 4. So at 3rd and 4, he missed a slant. That was unacceptable. But then on 4th and 4, Joe Flacco had his tight open to open in the left side flat. And Joe Flacco just threw the ball right into the dirt. And I can only imagine Ravens fans watching at home were like, Joe, what are you doing? I can only imagine how frustrating that would be to watch. And so the truth is, Joe Flacco played ugly last night. He had far too many missed opportunities, and it wasn't good. But if we look at the history of Joe Flacco, especially against the Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Flacco always struggles against the Ravens. All time against the Bengals. When Joe Flacco plays the Bengals, he has 21 touchdowns and 25 interceptions all time. That's not good. Historically, Joe Flacco is not good against the Bengals. He's only got 9 wins in 20 games against the Bengals. So looking ahead, is Joe Flacco going to be okay? I think so. I think Joe Flacco is going to be all right. Joe Flacco's not a top 10 quarterback. Nobody has that delusion at all. And I made the mistake. I put the Ravens in my deadly dozen last week. I might have been getting ahead of myself. That might be... I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. Maybe that was too ahead. And honestly, I don't really know what to make of the entire AFC North. The Steelers look like a chaotic mess. The Ravens imploded last night on Thursday Night Football against the Bengals. I don't trust the Bengals. They had far too many penalties last night. Historically, the Bengals are not reliable. I don't trust Andy Dalton. And then you have the Browns, which, sorry, but they're the Browns. Like, do you trust the Browns? I don't. And so it really looks like to me that AFC North is up for grabs. I don't know who's going to take it. I don't know if it's the Steelers or the Bengals or the Ravens. Maybe the Browns come out of nowhere. I have no idea. But right now, the AFC North looks like a mess. It looks like a weird, confusing mess with the unreliable Bengals at the top, which is just weird to me. I have no idea what to make of that. And I do think Joe Flacco is going to even out. So he had a really great game against the Bills, had a really terrible game against the Bengals. I think he's going to come back to the middle somewhere. His middle ground is really where he plays normally. He's about a 60% completion percentage all time. So we will see what Joe Flacco turns into. But currently, last night was not encouraging if you're either a Ravens fan or a Joe Flacco fan. And you know what team we honestly learned the most about last night? We learned a lot about the Buffalo Bills. That's what we learned a lot about, was the Ravens destroyed the Bills 47-3. And on Thursday Night Football, the Ravens got pretty much annihilated by the Bengals. We learned the Bills are even worse than we thought. That's honestly the biggest thing you can take away from last night on Thursday Night Football is, oh, man. The Ravens looked dysfunctional, and the Ravens destroyed the Bills. Like, I know it's any given Sunday. You can't really tell, but very rarely do you see a team get blown out 47-3. You rarely see a team get completely just destroyed, annihilated like that in the NFL. It looked like a college game, honestly, week one, the Bills and the Ravens. And if I'm a Bills fan, I am so mortified and concerned and don't feel good. I mean, this week the Bills play the Chargers, and I think the Chargers are going to put the Bills to task. They are going to destroy the Bills. Remember, the Bills are starting their rookie quarterback, Josh Allen, and I am really, really concerned for Josh Allen. Even though the Chargers are not playing their defensive end, Joey Bosa. One more takeaway from the Cincinnati Bengals game last night. John Ross is a receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals. He was a 9th overall pick in 2017. And I had a buddy texting me last night, before the game yesterday, my buddy texted me asking for advice. He said, I play fantasy. Who should I start at wide receiver? Should I start Brandon Marshall, the receiver for the Seahawks, or John Ross, the receiver for the Bengals? I don't play fantasy. I have no idea. I really kind of despise fantasy. If you like it, awesome. Good for you. For me, total waste of time. Don't care. I don't want to invest a lot of my free time into playing fantasy football. No, I'm good. But I really had to think about this. Okay, who's better, Brandon Marshall? Who's more likely to have a good week this week? Brandon Marshall, a 34-year-old wide receiver who was cut by the Giants this offseason, or John Ross? John Ross is a far more explosive athlete. John Ross, on paper, is a way better wide receiver than Brandon Marshall. Remember, Brandon Marshall's kind of washed up. He's playing the Chicago Bears this week, a really good defense. 34 years old, got cut by the Giants. And yet, that was still a really tough decision. I was like, Brandon Marshall or John Ross? I told my buddy, you know what? I would go with John Ross because who's more likely to have 100 yards? John Ross is an explosive athlete. I thought maybe John Ross is going to go off. Man, was I wrong. Oh, my goodness. John Ross. It's terrible. He had one catch last night for 8 yards. And if you look at the season, John Ross has only 2 catches for 11 yards. He has a touchdown. He had a 3-yard touchdown catch last week. But John Ross is basically useless in the Bengals offense. It's concerning. It's really bad. Remember, again, John Ross was the number 9 overall pick last year in the 2017 NFL Draft. Last year in his rookie year, he got hurt. John Ross had no catches last year. He played in 3 games, no catches, had 1 run for 12 yards. That's it. John Ross has been completely ineffective for the Cincinnati Bengals. And John Ross is in danger of becoming a bust. In fact, you could already argue, yeah, John Ross is a bust already, only 2 games into his second year in the NFL. And what this made me do, I was wondering, because I started with John Ross, and I said, okay, let's look at other first-round wide receivers. And if you compare John Ross to other first-round wide receivers, is he a mess? Is he way behind other first-round wide receivers? And what I learned was actually really terrifying. So in 2015, 5 wide receivers were taken in the first round in 2015. 5 wide receivers were drafted in the first round in 2015. Amari Cooper from the Raiders. The Colts drafted Philip Dorsett. The Dolphins drafted Devontae Parker. The Ravens drafted Brashad Perryman, and the Bears drafted Kevin White. So 5 wide receivers were taken in the first round of 2015. Amari Cooper was a home run, a success, a great, great pick. He's a stud. In his first 3 years in the NFL, Amari Cooper has had 203 catches. He's great. And the Dolphins somewhat succeeded with Devontae Parker. He's a solid, kind of middle-of-the-road NFL starter, had 139 catches in his first 3 years. But here's what's concerning. So 2 of the 5 were either at least a starter or, Amari Cooper's a really good wide receiver. But the other 3 of 5 are busts. Bad, not successful, horrible NFL wide receivers. Philip Dorsett was a bust. The Colts drafted him, didn't work out. They traded him to the Patriots. He has 63 catches in his first 3 years. Not good. How about Brashad Perryman? First round pick by the Ravens. He got cut in training camp this year. He's done. He's out of the league. He's a free agent. I think the Patriots should go sign him just because why not? But, Brashad Perryman didn't work out. He had 4 catches in 3 years. That's not good. That's horrible. That's like what? That's 11 catches a year in 16-game season? That's horrible. How about Kevin White? The Bears drafted Kevin White. He got hurt his rookie year. Got hurt again last year. He's been hurt twice. In 2 years, he's only played 2 years. He has 5 catches. Excuse me. Kevin White for the Bears has played 5 games in 2 years and only has 21 catches. That is atrocious. Kevin White is a bust. So 3 of the 5 in 2015 were complete busts. 1 was really good and 1 was kind of, he's fine. What if we go to 2016? There were 4 wide receivers drafted in the first round of 2016. Corey Coleman from the Browns, Will Fuller from the Texans, Laquan Treadwell from the Vikings, and Josh Doctson from the Redskins. Corey Coleman was a bust. The Browns drafted him. They just traded him to the Bills. The Bills cut him. He got signed by the Patriots the other day. He's a complete, absolute bust. How about Laquan Treadwell? I think he's a bust. He's only had 21 catches in his first 2 seasons. That's not good. Maybe in year 3 he works out. I don't know. But it's not looking good. Will Fuller was solid. He's got had 47 catches his rookie year. He had 28 catches last year in only 10 games. Got hurt. Remember, Deshaun Watson also got hurt. And Josh Doctson was not great. I mean, in his first 2 years with the Redskins, he only has 37 catches. So what that means is 3 of those 4, not great. Laquan Treadwell's not good. Corey Coleman got cut. Josh Doctson only has 37 catches in 2 years. At least Will Fuller is a solid player who contributes a little bit, but none of those first 4 draft picks were great. None of them were good. 2 of them were complete busts, and 2 of them were like, they're fine. They can hang around. How about 2017, last year? Again, John Ross, complete bust. For the Bengals, not good. And Mike Williams for the Chargers. Mike Williams has 11 catches in only 10 games last year as a rookie. That's not good. 10 catches? 1.1 catch a game? Come on, man. It's not good. And Corey Davis from the Titans. Corey Davis was a massive, massive overreach. He had 34 catches last year in his rookie year. The point of all this is to say that between 2015 and 2017, 12 wide receivers were drafted in the first round. Only 2 of those wide receivers have ever had a season over 50 catches. John Ross looks like a bust. Laquan Treadwell looks like a bust. It's not good. Kevin White, he's a bust. I don't know, man. We'll see. The Panthers drafted DJ Moore this year in the first round. The Falcons drafted Calvin Ridley in the first round. Basically, this is it. If Calvin Ridley and DJ Moore are both busts, I'm done. I will never endorse drafting a first-round wide receiver ever again. It's not good. Like, look at some of the good young wide receivers in the NFL. Viking star wide receiver Stephon Diggs just signed a huge, huge contract. He was a 5th-round pick. The Vikings' other good wide receiver, Adam Thielen, undrafted. Juju Smith-Schuster or Jarvis Landry, 2 really good wide receivers. Both were 2nd-round picks. Antonio Brown, arguably the best receiver in the entire NFL. He was a 6th-round pick. Like, sometimes it's obvious, right? Odell Beckham Jr., Julio Jones, they were 1st-round picks, and it was very obvious from the beginning. They are dudes. They should be 1st-round picks. But the other thing that's obvious is that often wide receivers are overdrafted. Unless it's obvious, unless it's Julio Jones or Calvin Johnson or Odell Beckham Jr., for the most part, wide receivers are often overdrafted. It's not good. So I would be very careful before you ever draft a receiver in the first round ever again, because John Ross, bust. Rashad Perryman, bust. Corey Coleman, bust. Corey Coleman, I could have told you in college. Yeah, Corey Coleman is not Julio Jones. You are overdrafting him. And let's be honest, DJ Moore, I like the guy. He's not Julio Jones. He's not Odell Beckham Jr. Over and over and over again, receivers are overdrafted and it doesn't work out. So I just would be very careful before you draft any wide receiver in the first round. And oh yeah, by the way, John Ross, the Bengals wide receiver, the 9th overall pick in 2017, he's a bust. He's got 2 catches in all of last season and again this season. That's not good. I know he got hurt last year, but man, I see one moment in John Ross's entire career that's impressive, and it was a preseason game against, guess who? The Buffalo Bills, who are awful. They're the worst team in football. All right. Final thing I want to talk about today. There are 9 NFL games this week I am incredibly, incredibly excited for. I'm going to lay them out, go through them, make my picks. The first game I'm really interested in is the Patriots playing the Jaguars in Jacksonville. I am picking the Patriots to win this game. What did the Patriots prove to us last week? The Patriots proved that all they need is Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. The Patriots are completely outmatched in this game. The Jaguars are a far better team, but Patriots have Tom Brady. Patriots have Bill Belichick. And we're going to learn a lot. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but what the Patriots always do is take away their opposing team's best part of their offense. For the Jaguars, the best thing the Jaguars do on offense is run the ball. The Patriots are going to load the box. They're going to take away the Jaguars' running game. It looks like Leonard Fournette, their running back, is hurt out for the game. I might be wrong, but even if it's TJ Yeldon, I feel good about the Jaguars' running game for the most part all year. Even if Leonard Fournette gets hurt, TJ Yeldon's a good running back. But the way the Jaguars are going to have to beat the Patriots is with Blake Bortles. The Patriots are going to stop the Jaguars' running game. So we're going to have to see Blake Bortles take over the game and beat the Patriots, and I do not think that's going to happen. I am picking the Patriots to beat the Jaguars. How about the Falcons and the Panthers? The Falcons host the Panthers in Atlanta. I am picking the Panthers. Look, here's the thing. The Falcons cannot start 0-2. They're going to claw, scratch, do everything they can to avoid this. But the Panthers have a great run defense. The Panthers are a fantastic, fantastic defense against the run. And the Falcons are missing their starting running back, Devontae Freeman. He's not going to play. Without play action, without a running game, Matt Ryan is severely limited and going to struggle. So I think this game might be close at the end, but I am picking the Panthers to beat the Falcons this week. I think Matt Ryan could struggle at times again for a second week in a row. Another interesting game in the NFL, the Bills play the Chargers in Buffalo. Of course, I'm picking the LA Chargers to win this game. The question is, how badly do the Chargers beat up the Bills? That's all I want to know. How bad is it? Because the Bills are starting their rookie quarterback, Josh Allen. This is an easy pick, but it is interesting. There's no Joey Bosa, the defensive end for the Chargers. I don't think that matters at all. I think Josh Allen's going to really struggle. His offensive line is bad. Remember, Joey Bosa is highly underrated. Joey Bosa had 10.5 sacks last year in just 11 games. He had as many sacks last year in 11 games as Khalil Mack had in 10.5 games, and Khalil Mack is the highest paid defender in the history of the NFL. So I am really curious to see what happens. Not having Joey Bosa does matter for the Chargers long term throughout the season, but against the Bills, it will not matter at all. The Bills are going to struggle. They're going to lose. The Chargers will beat the Bills. The question is by how much. The Packers play the Vikings in Green Bay. I'm picking the Vikings. The question for this game is, are the Vikings truly dominant? This is a must-win game for the Vikings. The Packers are dominant. Aaron Rodgers is hurt. I'm picking the Vikings. I really hope I don't make a mistake. Kirk Cousins has to deliver. The Vikings quarterback must play well in this game. He must dominate. That's why they paid him so much money. Aaron Rodgers is a wild card. We'll see what happens. But I'm picking the Vikings to beat the Packers on Sunday. How about the Jets and the Dolphins in New York? I'm picking the Dolphins. Why am I picking the Dolphins? The Jets have a better defense. I am just placing my bets on Ryan Tannehill, the Dolphins quarterback. That might be stupid. I'm probably totally wrong. I will probably get burned for this, but even though the Jets have a great defense, I'm so curious to watch the second half of the Jets and the Dolphins. The question is, as Ryan Tannehill progresses through the game, and as the Dolphins have to make adjustments on offense. Can Ryan Tannehill adapt and continue to be successful? I think the beginning of the game is not very interesting for Ryan Tannehill. He's going to be successful. He always is. It's the second half, as the plays get off script, as the Dolphins have to make adjustments. How good is Ryan Tannehill? So I think it's very possible Ryan Tannehill makes a statement for the Dolphins against the Jets, but it goes both ways. The Jets could make a dominant statement and completely shut out Ryan Tannehill. We're going to learn a lot about Ryan Tannehill this week in New York against the Jets. I'm picking the Dolphins. I will probably be very, this could be a huge mistake. The Chiefs play the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh. I am picking the Chiefs. It's very simple. It's Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs quarterback. I don't hate the Steelers at all, but they look dysfunctional. They look messy. Big Ben has hardly practiced this week. He finally practiced on Friday today. But the Chiefs are a far better team, and I'm picking the Chiefs to beat the Steelers because of their quarterback, Patrick Mahomes. How about the Cowboys and the Giants? Cowboys are going to host the Giants this week. I'm picking the Giants to win. The Giants are going to load the box. The Giants are going to do everything they can to stop the Cowboys' running game, stop Ezekiel Elliott. The Giants are going to force the Cowboys quarterback, Dak Prescott, to win. They're going to say, Dak Prescott, throw the ball 40, 50 times a game. Can you beat us? You can't. And I think the Giants have a more explosive offense. I'm picking the Giants to win because of Dak Prescott's limitations, the Dallas Cowboys quarterback. How about the Lions and the 49ers in San Francisco? Nobody's surprised by this. I'm picking the Lions to lose. The 49ers are going to beat the Lions in San Francisco. I think Matthew Stafford bounces back. Matthew Stafford last week had 4 interceptions against the Jets. And really neither quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo or Matthew Stafford, had a great game last week. It's going to be an offensive battle. I'm picking the 49ers to win, to beat the Lions. I believe in Kyle Shanahan, the 49ers head coach. He might be the best head coach, offensive head coach. Him or Sean McVay are the 2 best offensive coaches in the entire NFL. I believe Jimmy Garoppolo is going to dominate against the Lions. 49ers are going to win. I don't think it'll be necessarily easy. Could be close in the third quarter. Maybe they pull away in the fourth quarter. But regardless, I'm picking the 49ers to beat the Lions on Sunday. And finally, a really, really close game, really interesting game is the Raiders and the Broncos in Denver. Now, if either side wins with a blowout, it's going to be Denver. The Broncos might blow out the Raiders, but if it's close, I'm picking the Raiders to win. Denver has an elite pass rush and a solid quarterback, while the Raiders have a really good quarterback and not a great defense. So what we're going to see is a great defense, solid quarterback versus Derek Carr and a bad defense. Now, my wild card in this game is how good does Derek Carr play? He looked gun-shy. He looked afraid of the pass rush last week against the Rams. I don't know if that's because Aaron Donald got a bunch of money. I don't know what happened, but I'm curious to see which Derek Carr shows up. Do we see Derek Carr from the last 2 years? Or do we see the Derek Carr who's afraid of injury, who looked really, he looked sheepish against the Rams last week? I don't know what's going to happen. I'm picking the Broncos to beat the Raiders. I believe the Broncos are going to win, and I think they could win convincingly. So those are my 9 games in the NFL this week that look really, really interesting, and those are my picks. How about college football? There are 4 really interesting games in college football I want to talk about. First one is LSU-Auburn. It's number 12 LSU going to Auburn to play. This is a big one because of their quarterbacks, Jarrett Stidham, Joe Burrow. It's a really interesting matchup. The SEC is back. The SEC is finally back. I love watching SEC football. I know that's weird. I live on the West Coast. Usually people on the West Coast hate the SEC. How can you hate good football? That's my question. The Pac-12 football sucks. It's not competitive. There's a reason they're not in the college football playoff conversation. I love watching the SEC. I like watching really good football. And finally, the SEC has really good quarterbacks. Can't wait to watch. I'm so excited. LSU Auburn's going to be fantastic. I'm picking Auburn to win. I think their quarterback has more experience. They run the ball a little better. But LSU Auburn's going to be a great game. Number 1, Alabama plays at Ole Miss. Here is why I'm interested in this game. I'm picking Alabama to win, no question. But Tua Tagovailoa is a quarterback for Alabama. He, I think, at some point is going to be a number 1 pick in the NFL. I cannot wait to watch him finally play against an SEC defense. I'm so excited. I think they're going to dominate Ole Miss. I like Ole Miss's quarterback. He's an interesting guy from Hawaii. But all in all, I think Alabama is going to win convincingly against Ole Miss. How about Ohio State and TCU? Number 4, Ohio State is going to Cowboy Stadium to play number 15 TCU. Ohio State's going to crush TCU. Ohio State is going to completely dominate TCU. Why? They have better athletes, a better offensive line, a better defensive line. That is what wins games in college football. I think TCU is going to struggle to run the ball against Ohio State. It's going to be an ugly, ugly mess. Ohio State just a bunch of NFL players. Ohio State is going to crush TCU on Saturday tomorrow. And finally, the last interesting game of college football this week is number 22 USC goes to Austin, Texas to play the University of Texas. I'm picking Texas. The reason why is because I like Texas's quarterback. He's Sam Erlinger, or whatever you say his name. He's a solid quarterback. He's not an NFL quarterback at all, but he's a solid college quarterback. He's more experienced than the USC quarterback, JT Daniels. And despite the fact that USC has better athletes, I think JT Daniels does. He's a game manager right now. He's still developing, still learning. And his tape from Stanford last week looked really, really bad. I love JT Daniels. Do not get me wrong. But I'm just trying not to make an emotional decision because of the fact that I love this quarterback. I don't want that to cloud my judgment. I think Texas has a better chance of winning at home. It's at home for Texas. They have a better quarterback, more experience. And I think JT Daniels is going to struggle somewhat. Not a lot, but he'll be better than he was against Stanford. But JT Daniels is not going to be perfect. And maybe I'm wrong. The only way I'm wrong about the USC-Texas game is if JT Daniels watches film from last week, corrects every single little mistake he makes, and is completely a different quarterback this week than he was last week. If JT Daniels plays half as bad as he did last week, they're still going to lose against Texas. I don't hate JT Daniels. Again, love the guy. I'm picking Texas to beat USC. JT Daniels, their true freshman quarterback at USC, just needs more time to develop. All right. That was 41 minutes. I hope that was not boring. I really have no idea. If you hated that show, if you thought that sucked, please tell me. I don't know, and I will not know unless you tell me. I tried to do a segment at the end where I picked all these games. So that way on Wednesday I can talk about, okay, well, this happened, why, what did I think, yada, yada. If you hate this version, if you hate these segments, please tell me. I have no idea, and I'm just trying to get a show out every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So again, please give me feedback on this episode. If there's something you don't like, something you want changed, I can only change it if you give me feedback. So please tell me what you think of this podcast. My name is Zach Schaumler. Thank you so very much for tuning in. Remember, you can subscribe to Strong Opinion Sports on iTunes, on SoundCloud, and on YouTube. You can find the full entire hour-long podcast on YouTube, as well as my best, most interesting clips. Share it on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. It's helped me grow this show by telling your friends about it. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you guys so very much. And as always, have a great day. Enjoy the weekend. I will be working tomorrow at a college football game, filming for a unknown, I can't say the network. I'll probably get in trouble. I don't really want to associate myself with networks right now. I think that would be bad because I say a lot of critical stuff. But regardless, hope you guys have a great weekend. Enjoy the football games, and I will see you again on Monday. Ba-dum, bum, bam, we are done. Bye.